And we are back. This is the Baschamania podcast. I am your host, Justin Basch, and we've got another great episode today. Today, NCAA champion and Olympic hopeful Seth Gross comes back on the podcast. I'm pumped to dive into some funny stories he has and, of course, dive into his faith as we always tend to do. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure to subscribe to Baschamania. And if you enjoy this episode, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
It's Baschamania! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when Baschamania runs wild? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
He goes by the handle God's Wrestler 133. My buddy Seth Gross. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Can't complain too much. Just trying to enjoy things right now, and just spending some time fixing up my new house and hanging out with the fiance and my buddies in town. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's got to be so much has happened. First of all, since the last time we talked on the podcast. I mean, we text every day, but the last time I think you came on the podcast was just after the Olympic trials were postponed. You weren't engaged yet. You were still in the apartment. Yeah. Now you're engaged. You got the house, all these things. So I guess we'll kind of cover some of this ground. First of all, moving has to be a blessing and a curse because with the quarantine, there's more time than ever to do home projects. But I refuse to go to Lowe's. I don't want to not wear a mask, but I can't breathe in them because I got nose issues. I have my adenoids out. Yeah. It's a pain. So I'll send my wife, but then it's she doesn't know what she's looking for, or it takes her longer because she's not used to it. So I can imagine, and I know from moving before, I'm at Home Depot, Lowe's, all these stores every 5 minutes because you forget stuff. What the heck was that process like?
Dude, it's wild. I mean, our whole closing was interesting. Everything was interesting. Even so we've done a lot of projects already. We've completely redone the floors. Sanded them down, stained them, put the poly over them. We painted the whole house. We did a bunch in the backyard. We're putting some mulch out there right now. We're doing a ton of projects already, and we've had to go to Home Depot a handful of times, and it is insane. I don't see that many people there. When there's not quarantine. Right now, it's insane. There's some people standing at the door, counting, making sure that there's
clicker, right?
Yeah, you can only have a certain amount in the store at a time, and it was nuts. We tried to limit. You tried to go and get as much stuff as we can that one trip. Ended up having always forget something, so we ended up having to go back. But it was crazy. It's been nuts.
And you were telling me too, your closing was curbside.
Yeah. So because I was actually excited. We to get to meet the owner of the house before we bought it and do that little closing deal and do a little celebration. And then so they literally brought a packet of things to sign, chucked it in my window, and said, "Call this number if you need anything." So I signed them, threw them back, and that was the closing. So it was weird, but got it done.
And I saw one of the pictures your fiance posted. And I noticed right away, it looked good, but the first thing I noticed was the Traeger in the window. How have you been now, we've got you the Traeger a month ago, maybe longer. Yeah. We haven't been able to use it because you're in an apartment. How amazing is that thing, first of all?
Dude, I grilled a little bit growing up, but this is another level. I feel like a man now.
Yeah.
I'm here freaking having that. It's freaking, I got some pride going out there cooking on it, and it's awesome. I actually got a big old brisket I'm going to be making today. So I'm going to throw that on the grill, let it sit until later tonight. But, dude, I've been using it nonstop, every meal, even things that I'd normally throw in the oven. I've been throwing in the Traeger and definitely making use of it.
And it's the same for me because I lived in a loft for 3 years and I ate out every single meal. I never cooked. Yeah. Now I rarely go out, not even because of the quarantine, because these things are amazing. Yesterday I had a pork shoulder on one and salmon cooking on the other. Because I was cooking the pulled pork at 250 for 8 hours, but I wanted some lunch, so I turned the other one on to 500 to the salmon on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw you got the, what is it, the Pro 885 or something now?
So I have the Pro Series 780, and they just sent me the Ironwood 885, which which is sick. But the only downside to it, and it's not a downside, but you have to really let it season. That's why I'm doing some longer cooks, because you want that smoke flavor, you want that seasoning. The other one's so broken in, but it's sick. Super smoke, all these things. It's funny because now I'm like, I try not to post as much as I want to, because I'm like, people are going to get sick of me cooking the same thing. But it is. You get so prideful. I remember I posted a picture of baby backs a couple of weeks ago, and somebody's they're like, somebody like DM'd me or tweeted something, or like, dude, you can't be wearing sandals with that masterpiece. You need to be wearing a pair of Nike Monarchs. So I couldn't remember what those are. I'm not like the biggest sneakerhead, so I look up like, oh, these are the classic like American dad grilling shoes. And speaking of the Traeger, this is one thing we've been talking about. Right when the Olympic trials got postponed, you had mentioned to me in like a text or something like, hey, I don't even know if I'll be able to make 57 next year. And as I'm thinking about you Traegering, I'm thinking about it more and more, because I don't know, how has this impacted your weight? Like, number one, you're done competing at 133, so technically you could, I wouldn't say you're going to shrink your body, but I mean, you have a 1-year plan now. Like, have you given thought to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was I was nervous about that. So I was thinking about it, and like all year I was like, man, like 33 has been a little bit tough, and 57 was terrible, a year from now. And, how am I possibly going to make 57 kilos? And so I was a little worried about that I was going to get real big after season. And, typically in the past, I guess it's been a little different with my injury and different things. So I blew up a little more than I normally would. But, I thought I was going to get big, but I've been waking up weighing 140 and 141, and I'm eating good. I feel good. And so I think that as long as I stay disciplined on my diet, eat the right things, and, keep my body reasonably, 140, 142 range for now. And I think I'm sitting really good for 57 kilos. And I was surprised. I thought I'd get a lot bigger than this, but it's been good. And I think
like
this
Seabass?
Year to really.
Seabass is looking like a 49-pounder.
Tristan Moran on our team, I just saw him for the first time yesterday. Oh my goodness! I think he weighs almost 180 right now. It's insane.
And for the casual fans listening, because I know when I first really started following the sport, I didn't know the translations that well. 57 kilos is like 125 pounds. So it's really walking around 15 pounds over, which I guess consider this the off season right now. That's not that bad.
Yeah, it's definitely, I thought I was going to easily be 145 or so by now. But, obviously when I get closer, I obviously want to be probably more in the 8-pound over range on a training basis, just so my body's really adjusted to that weight. So, I got plenty of time now. So it's just, probably 4 or 5 months from now, I'll slowly, try to be a pound lighter each month and eventually walk around at 133-ish.
Are you trying to prevent getting too big at all? Or is it just like you're doing whatever and that's where you're naturally staying with what you're working out?
Yeah, right now it's pretty, I'm just doing whatever, really just eating, drinking, whatever, and working out, and haven't gotten that much bigger. And I've weighed, after workouts, I think 2 days ago I was like 138.5, and so it's crazy. Like I feel like it's easier now than during the season to make 133, but it's crazy how it works.
What are you doing right now, working out wise?
So it's been, trying to sneak in places here and there and figure out mat space, and it's been tricky. I actually got Nick Becker on the RTC. He brought over a bunch of like weights and stuff, and I got those in my basement. So we've been doing what do you call them? Circuits down there, different things. Yeah, it's different circuit, like 30-minute circuits, and then going on runs, and then every time I can get in a wrestling room, get in there and roll around and grab a guy and get in there. And it's been definitely not easy, but as long as you make an effort, I think that you can find mat space for the most part.
Does it turn your desire up even higher when you take this much time off, like not only wrestling as a whole, because you are like getting in a room here and there, But this has got to be the longest. I mean, your surgery was kind of an anomaly, but this has got to be the longest where it's like, man, I'm healthy and I'm ready to go, and I can't do fully what I want to do. I'd imagine that only increases your desire even more.
Yeah, I mean, this is really tough because wrestling-wise, everything-wise, I really just love to compete, like in everything. And, now, like during the summer, usually at least they get to go in the wrestling room and do some like team, play some handball, do something to compete, get that competitive stuff out. And being stuck at home, I got me and my fiance, and, we don't have too much to compete over and stuff. So it's been a little trickier to get my competitiveness out of me. But, it translates into board games and getting competitive with that, I guess. But, it's definitely tough. And I love, getting out there and competing in every chance I get. And I'm one of those guys who, if I had the opportunity, I'd be wrestling every single weekend. And, so it's definitely first time by, not being able to, where my body's healthy and able.
How often are you in talk with like Reader and Bono and everybody?
Pretty much daily. We'll at least text a little bit. Bono usually gives me a phone call a couple times a week and we chat, and we stay super in touch about everything, and guys on the team we do a team call with, and it's good. It's tricky, to do the whole team get on a Zoom call every week because people have things going on. People, guys on the team are starting to work and stuff, but we try to keep in touch.
So one of the reasons why we've been chatting about you coming back on today is I've been trying to have at least one episode of the week when I'm doing 2-3 episodes a week that kind of keep it light. Last week, Chenzo came on, had me dying for a half hour straight with stories of being 30 pounds over going to Fargo. And you told me you had some stories to share. So I said, all right, let's run it back this week. So the floor is yours. Tell me and the audience some humorous stories, please.
All right. Let's start off. I guess since Vincenzo had a Fargo story, I'll tell my Fargo story, making weight and all that. And so this story was me and my buddy Maluwe, where he's a 3-time state champ from Minnesota, and we were dummies about our weight back then. And we went through Fargo camp, and we got the big cafe there, so we're like, whatever, we'll figure out our weight when it gets closer. And we're just pigging out and not really caring, training and doing whatever. And it's starting to get closer. And between like Fargo camp and Fargo, you got like 2 days. You go home and then you head on out, and you're there like a day before you get there. And we were just eating, doing whatever, training, and we head on out to Fargo eventually. And we're both probably 10 to 15 pound over range, like ridiculous. We're high school. I think he was probably 106 or 112 at the time, and I was going 112 for that tournament, and I was probably 10, 15 over. And when you're a little guy like that's a lot of weight for a few days. And I went up to the coach. I was like, I probably didn't take it as serious. This is my freshman year. I probably didn't take it as serious as I should have. I was like, oh man, like whatever. I'm a first year cadet, and I go up to the coach. I'm like, hey, you think I can bump up a weight? And he's like, oh, really? Yeah. I didn't hear his story. I got to listen to it. But yeah, he's like, hey, is it good if I go up a weight? Like, whatever. And he's like, we already have all our guys at 119. Like, you can't bump up. There's not a spot for you there because there's qualification stuff for Fargo. And I'm like, oh, well, crap. I guess I got to make weight now. And so I remember we had me and my buddy were in the same boat, and we just had plastics on. We made the sauna in the hotel room. We had everything going, getting down to weight. And so we had 2 days. The first day we got probably like 6 or 7 off, and we still probably had about 5 that next day to go or something. And yeah, it was terrible. And I remember we had our sauna suits. We were running outside the Fargo heat, back and forth. I collapsed on the ground. I'm like, I can't go anymore. I can't do this. And he's like trying to pick me up, and then I finally get going. Then he collapses on the ground. He's like, yeah, we can't. We're not making it. And it's just going back and forth. And we got to the point where we just could not run anymore. We could not do anything. So our coach grabs us, and he throws us on a treadmill inside, jacks the room up. And I remember, like, I'm crying on the treadmill. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not making weight. And he's just like, he's not having it at all. He's just on me. He's like, dude, quit being a freaking baby about it. Like, keep going. And he's like doing the arms for me on an elliptical, and my buddy's like collapsing on the treadmill. And then we got to a point where we were just doing nothing. We were worthless in there. So they brought us up to the room, the hotel, like the hotel. We made like a little sauna in our room, and they chuck us in there. And I remember like we were dying in there. I crawl on out, and my buddy's like, can I just please have one ice cube? And he's like sitting on the corner, just one ice cube. And the coach was like, no, get back in there. If you go for 10 more minutes, you can have an ice cube or something. I'm like, oh, he just keeps shoving us in there. And eventually we get down, we're on weight, and we make weight, whatever. We wrestle the next day. And then we decide it'd be a good idea to do the same exact thing all over again for freestyle. And blew right back up to weight. And this time I thought for sure they were going to let me bump up, and nope, same deal. And I ended up having to go through that same type of process. But yeah, it was.
Was your coach mad at you? Like, was he pissed that you let yourself gain so much weight?
Oh, he was so pissed. He was not happy. You got to get him on to tell the story. He would love to tell. He tells the story way better than I probably do, but.
Do you think that it's funny? I asked Chenzo the same thing. Like, do you think these terrible weight cutting experiences that you can laugh at now, but I gotta believe it helped you get into a better place now, where it's like, look, at any time you do something, you go through something that you don't want to experience again, it helps you not get back to that place. Like, do you think it helped you maintain your weight better all through college?
I definitely fit. I mean, it was night and day different when I got to college. You know, you got coaches and nutritionists and all this that like really help you figure that out. And I never weightlifted in high school. I ate what I wanted in high school. I was the guy that ate hot Cheetos and pop after weigh-ins, like just terrible. And like, there's no way I was competing at the level I could have if, I was doing things right. So I definitely, I think the biggest thing out of all that is I actually ended up, that was kind of where I broke through, and I'd never done good at national stuff or anything. And I actually kind of broke through that tournament because I won the national championship in freestyle as a first year cadet. And honestly, I think it's because, I finally convinced myself that I worked way too hard. I did way too much to get down to weight, and mentally I was just like, dude, I cannot lose.
How did you rebound that quick? How did you if you're so fatigued from burning off that weight, how did you get that strength back?
Dude, I honestly have absolutely no idea, but I had more energy that tournament than I probably ever had, like ever wrestling. Like I go back and watch, and I've never seen I'm moving, I'm jumping around the mat. Like I don't know what it was, but we had a pretty good. I think that's back when you weighed in the night, or was it I think you get weighed in the morning, but you got like 3-4 hours before you actually wrestle. And I remember just drinking and eating as much as I could, and I laid down and slept, and I woke up feeling like an all-star, and did pretty well. So that was kind of when I actually broke on the scene. But it was a crazy experience. Never put myself through something like that again.
Yeah, but I know you have other stories too. So did you ever put yourself through something like that again?
I've been not to that extent. Definitely, that was by far the worst. Like if I think about it, man, it hurts to think about that night. Like it was miserable. But I mean, I've had some other bad ones, but not to that extent. I think I've gotten much smarter about it, and I don't know what I used to think. I just didn't know how to lose weight back then. I didn't know what I was eating whatever. Yeah, it was bad.
So what other stories you got for us?
All right, let's do one about Bono. This is a funny one. So, me, Bono, Reader. All right, so this is back at South Dakota State, and we all used to play this game, wall ball kind of game. So we had a volleyball, and kind of the goal was one team serves it, smacks it against the wall, ball comes back, you have to let it bounce once, and then you it's 2 versus 2. You get to hit it once, then your teammates got to smack it back against the wall. And it was me, Reader, AJ Shop, and Bono. And it was me and Bono versus Shop and Reader. And we got way too competitive. We played this every day. Like, we'd show up 2 hours early to practice to play handball. And it was nuts. Like, we would be, like, tackling each other, yelling at each other, like so mad that we didn't talk to each other the next days after these matches.
Really?
It got competitive. Like, it was bad. But anyway, so one day it was getting heated like that. We did a best out of 3 series. I think Shop and Reader won the first game. We won the second game, and it was coming down to the wire. And it was probably, we played at 21. It was like 19-19 or something. And I remember we served it up, and Bono's getting a little old, all right? So he's trying to move around best he can. I remember, so he's run around and he dives, and it's like a slow motion dive, man. When he dives, it's like, and he just completely biffs on hitting the ball, falls to the ground, and Bono just starts screaming. And Reader and Shop are just like thinking, oh, he's being a poor sport, because sometimes he acts like that, and he's being a little baby. So he's like, they're like, get up and finish the game. It's game point. Quit faking or whatever, and like just yelling at him. And he's not getting up, and we're like, and I'm like, come on, man, we got this. We're gonna get these dudes. And he's like, he's not moving. And we go over there, and he's like, this is serious or something. Just like, no, this is not a joke. We're like, dude, what is it? He's like, my calf. And we like looked at him, looked like he had like a little cramp or something. We're like, dude, quit being a baby. Like, this is, get up and finish the game. And he gets up, and this dude couldn't even stand on it, anything. And we still thought like he was being a little wimp about it. He's like, whatever, I'm done. He didn't finish the game, and we were all like, what a sissy. And then the next day he comes in, and his entire leg is purple.
What?
Like, his entire leg is purple. His calf is like balled up. It was something serious. If you ask him next time you see him to just look at his calves. One is still to this day jacked up.
Really?
His entire leg was purple. It was all messed up, and now he runs funny from it. So it was actually a serious thing, but
Did they ever figure out what was wrong with it? Did you go to a doctor and say, hey, my whole leg is black and blue, or?
I mean, he talked to some people, but Bono's philosophy for everything is ignore it and it'll go away. So he always likes to be a Mr. Tough guy, but he definitely complained about it about every single day for the next probably 3 months. I remember we were out in Vegas, and he's like hobbling around complaining about it, and it was funny, man. And yeah, he's got pictures of it. You'll have to ask sometime, but we all thought he was just being like a baby about it, and just didn't want to lose the game, but it was actually
What
actually
like a
messed
kind
up.
of freak injury? So he like basically jumped and fell.
Yeah, he doesn't even know how it happened. It was like kind of like a regular dive type thing, and it just like buckled up on him, like his calf like slungshot up into like the very top of it. And now it's like all balled up, and yeah, weird. It was like a freak little accident there.
I like ignoring things, but only because I'm scared of what the doctors will tell me. I don't think it's gonna go away, but like I've had this little tiny cyst the size of a marble in my obliques for like 2 decades, since as early as I can remember. I refuse to go to the doctor because I think it's cancer. I refuse to go. So I'm that same way. Like, I'm not going to go figure. Right. I don't think it's going to go away. I just don't want to know. Nothing good can come from knowing, I don't think.
Yep. No, I guess that's his philosophy too. I don't know about it. It ain't affected me. But
right.
Yeah. So that was a funny one. So I'll go on. Another story, I guess, this is so you can ask anybody that kind of knows me, ask the coaches, whatever. But I'm a very forgetful person, and go on trips. I'm forgetting my wrestling shoes, my headgear all the time. I don't have my singlet, and you'd think, big show comes around, NCAA times, that I can at least remember my stuff for that. But so this is where this story comes into play. So this is 2018 when I won the NCAA championship, and it was so I made the finals, whatever, and you have a break all that day, and then you wrestle at night. So I was just relaxing, sleeping all day, and hanging out with my family in the morning, and then getting ready to go. And I pack all my stuff up, head on. Well, I think I pack all my stuff up. I head on over. And I had given myself a little bit of extra time to, get a warm, probably 30 minutes extra, and then I'd have to start warming up once I got there. And we show up, and we get to the door, and they're like, credentials? And I'm like, all right. I start digging through my bag, and I'm like, it's got to be in here. I didn't take it out. Dig it through. I'm like, I don't got my credentials. And I was like,
look at my ear.
I'm wrestling in the finals tonight. Like, can I get in? And they're like, Nope. Need credentials. Like, dude, I gotta warm up here in 30 minutes. Like, and our hotel's a little bit of ways away, and I'm like, come on. And then like Bono's trying to get in and like trying to figure this out, like how I can get in, and like he gets in and goes talks to the head table, and they're like, it's like $500 to get a replaced credential or something.
What?
And we're just like, he's about to spend the money, and I'm like, dude, we can't. Like, we didn't have the biggest budget at South Dakota, so I was like, we got to figure this out. So Connor Brown, our little 125 pounder, and Sean Smalley, our RTC guy right now, go back to the hotel, and they decided they're going to try to go find it real quick. So they sprint on over there, and they're like tearing my room apart completely. And I'm sitting there freaking out because I got to get warmed up to wrestle in the freaking NCAA finals. And
Right.
they're tearing my room apart looking for it, can't find it. They're like, dude, we can't find it anywhere. And literally, we're about to have to pay $500 for credentials to get me in to warm up to wrestle in the finals. And finally, I guess I had put it in a plastic bag for some reason, like underneath 2 Gatorades. I don't know how it got there. I don't think I put it there. Somebody freaking set me up. But they finally find it under that after destroying my room. So I wrestled I get my warm up in, blah, 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 wrestle the final. I come back that night, and I just remember my mattresses are flipped over. All the clothes in my bag are spread out. Like, these dudes ransacked my room trying to find that thing, and it ended up being in this little baggie on my desk, and it was crazy. That's just one of the many times I forgot something, but that was definitely probably not a good time for it.
So I feel like I've been in situations like that, obviously not going to the NCAA finals, forgetting my credentials, but I'm curious, apart from the humor of it, when you're in a position like that, how do you not just freak out? Is it because you're a Christian, so you're like, all right, God, you got me here, I'm going to trust in you? Like, what was your reaction to that period of time where you're just waiting, saying, I don't know what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was freaking out, and definitely was a lot of anxiety, especially before wrestling that match. But I'm pretty laid back about things, and I was just like, if I got to do a quick warm up or whatever, I'm gonna figure out. I'll figure out a way to get ready. If I got to start jogging out here, I'll do it. So I think it was more as soon as I knew I left them, it was trying to figure out alternatives and approach to that. But yeah, other situations, it's just my faith plays a big role in my mindset towards things, because at the end of the day, right, God's plan and purpose is better than anything I could imagine, and things happen. I've been through situations, I've had back surgery, I got in trouble on my own accord, and dealt with things, and I kind of developed just like bad things happen, but they're mistakes, different things, but God's got a plan, and I'm gonna trust that it's gonna work out for the best. So that's kind of my approach for it.
Yeah, and that's a good approach to have. And I know we talked about that last time. And if anybody hasn't heard the first time Seth came on, I'll link that up. I don't know what episode number it is. It was early on when I started this podcast, but it's called The Seth Gross Redemption Story. I mean, that's such an incredible episode. It's one of my favorites. I think it even got syndicated where big outlets like picked up on it. It's such a wild story to think, hey, I might never wrestle again. I'm selling phones in Target. Was that the last job you had?
Yeah.
It's got to be, right?
I mean, I've done some random, work for some wrestling guys, like tree work and stuff, or like lawn stuff in the summers. But yeah, that's the last, job.
How long did you do that for?
It had to be 4 or 5 months or something like that. So it was a decent amount of time.
That's wild. This is why I believe everybody should document everything they do in their life. Because imagine if, let's say you make the Olympic team, you win the Olympics, and somebody goes, man, your redemption story, I think, isn't predicated upon anything that happens in the Olympics. I feel like it can only add another chapter or more layers to it. But imagine if you had footage, like we're seeing it with the Michael Jordan documentary. I haven't watched it. The WWE's doing one on The Undertaker, where they're filming him from 2017 to present. Imagine if you had footage from back when The Undertaker got started. It's fascinating to just think about. Imagine if there's a Seth Gross documentary and there's literally footage of you helping somebody sell a phone at Target, not wrestling again. I don't care about selling phones at Target. That's neither here nor there. The principle to me is you are selling phones with the intent to never wrestle again. That's what's so wild to me.
Yeah, it's still, thinking about it, man, it's crazy. And I remember, those days of selling phones, and it was It was such an odd time in my life, man. But I honestly didn't think I was gonna. I didn't think I was gonna get back on the mat. I didn't, I was weighing 170, 180 pounds, and it's wild, man. It just shows that, whatever situation, there's always, as long as you set your goals and you chase them down, you got a chance to achieve them. If you're selling phones at Target, or if you're having it, get up off the couch and get started is the big thing.
Yeah, and I'm imagining still that's now just I know for me, I lived out of my car for almost a month. I've fallen and hit rock bottom, and once you've kind of hit rock bottom, you have something that you can't buy, you can't create. You have something that once you've fallen and you know how, like, now that I know what rock bottom feels like, I literally have a fire in me that there's times I want to go just sulk in bed for an hour, but you won't see that for like a day or two. Like it's over like that because you know what could happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know how quick, like.
Yeah, change it. Definitely. I think, that's where I learned the most about myself. That's where I learned the most about what I wanted, what I cared about, and really, really improved my faith and relationship with God. And I think it's at those times where you feel like you have nothing that you really take that big leap forward. So I agree completely.
When you were working at Target, that's when your aunt came in and was really ministering to, I guess, you weren't walking at that point, right? You were just kind of doing your own thing. Were you I know that if I'm doing something, whether it's working, for me, it's cutting the grass, right? When I cut the grass, I'm just kind of praying, and even if it's loosely, it's not the most intent-filled prayer. It's just loose conversation with God. Was there any of that when you were working at Target? God, what do I do next? What do you think? Was there any of that, or were you just kind of hardened from it all?
I was just a lot feeling sorry for myself, thinking, everything's over. I'm going to be, going to community college and hopefully finding a job one day. And that was that. And I was at a point where I didn't have, I didn't look forward to getting up in the morning. I didn't look, it was a tough time. And yeah, I think that conversation with my aunt made a huge impact on me, and realized hey, you still have things you're passionate about. And just because a few people took it away from you doesn't mean that everybody is. And you gotta give it your best shot. And so yeah, it was. I think it was after that talk with her, and as I started seeing that, hey, there's still opportunities for me, that my faith, and I really started talking to God and getting to know Him a lot more.
And you weren't working out even at that time, right? Like you said, you ballooned up.
Yep. Yeah, I was massive. I got some pictures of that, and it is not a good sight to see.
Well, even the mugshot, you don't look the skinniest.
Yeah. So that was that big old beard.
Yeah, and I bring it up because it's I think there's so many times once we go through something and we get over it personally. I was just talking to a buddy of mine yesterday who was reaching out to me because he's just frustrated with where he's at. Not because really anything he's doing, but he's just man, I feel like I'm doing everything right. I'm on the worship team. I'm in ministry. I'm giving back to the community. I'm doing this. I'm in the Word. I'm in prayer. And he was frustrated. And he was asking me, I made a post about, me basically sitting with my head down in the pouring rain, and then me holding my wife's wedding dress, and did, a swipe, how amazing God is. And he was he started asking me a question, bro, were you always just faithful that was going to happen? And I said, no. I literally stopped what I was doing, went up to my office, and typed him, an essay. I'm like, dude, can I call you right now? And he's like, dude, I'm honestly a little bit, scared to talk on the phone. And so I went up to the office, and I just typed out a massive essay. And I told him about different things he had never known I'd done, and I'm exposing my own sin. And I was excited because I know that for me, the best part of going through hardship is I know God's going to use it to minister to others. And when you can tell someone, I've been there, or I've been in this situation, and now look what God's brought me from, it does so much. So that's why I so often want to go back to that, just from the sake of man, the success you've had, and not even just wrestling. Here you are, an Olympic hopeful, but you're also engaged to a woman who's amazing. You just bought a house. You could have felt sorry for yourself and continued down that downward path. Instead, you turned your life around. You end up going to South Dakota State. You went to Wisconsin. I mean, it's just it's crazy. If I sit back and I'm doing some prep for Anthony Robles coming on the podcast on Monday, and one of the things I think he said at the ESPY speech was don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you do have. And if you focus on everything you've been like brought from, man, it's powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I love that, and yes, I mean, one of the biggest things that God has showed me through it all is just like, it's my chance to. There's a lot of people going through similar things. They've been in trouble. They've been through hard things, and now, you don't know. Probably multiple times a week, kids reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm going through this. I know that you had your past. How did you get over it?" And I get the chance to tell them about my faith, tell them about God, and tell them how I did get over it. And that's been huge for me. And I think that like you said, God uses these things in crazy ways, and and being able to share those sins and share those struggles and share those problems and show that, I still have this faith. I'm not perfect, but, it's the point that I'm trying to be, the best I can, better each day. And, just as a Christian, I'm forgiven. So it's a huge thing that no matter what I do, right, God's going to love me, and there's always going to be purpose in my life.
Totally, man, which is why, hey, look at how easy it is to transition from some funny stories to diving deep into our faith, like that quick. I think when you know what God has done in your life, there's no better feeling than sharing pieces of your testimony.
Yeah. Oh, I do have, before we go, I do got one more quick story from,
all right, let's hear
I guess
it.
that kind of ties in with this all. So this is after. So I went through. You can go watch the redemption episode, kind of hear about that. But yeah. So this is the last funny story of the day. Is so I got to South Dakota State. I was weighing 170, 80 pounds, out of shape. I was coming in last in all the runs. And one day the coaches were out recruiting. They were gone, and we had a volunteer coach like putting us through a run or whatever. And we had to run to Perkins and back. And this is like a 1.5 mile, 2 mile run, like whatever, like should be quick and easy. And I'm dying. Like we had just started, like gone like 40 yards, and I'm already struggling. So me and this other dude on the team thought for some reason it'd be a good idea to disappear into the trees and kind of hide for a little bit.
Who hasn't done that?
So we hop in the trees because they go up to the route. You go to Perkins, you turn around, you go around that same way. So we thought, we'll just hide out in the trees here, and when the team comes back around, we'll pop on out, and nobody will notice. I don't know what we were thinking, but so they start coming back, and for some reason, we decided to pop out like right at the front of the pack, like we're fast guys or something, and I think that might have gave it away to the coach right away. But I remember we popped out, we ran back, and yeah, everybody right away was just yelling at us, and then we ended up having to go running again.
Really?
And the coach went with us, so it's like, go run. I'm going with you to make sure you go all the way. I can't trust you guys or something. I was like,
what an ego to go in the front.
So that was at a low point in my training. So that was a quick funny one to end the podcast. But
what year was that?
That was my first year at South Dakota State. So that was
2016, was it?
15, 16 maybe,
yeah.
Something like that. So
that's great.
Came a long way since then.
Yeah, we all have, man. We're all works in progress. So listen, man, I love it. Go continue working on your house stuff. Thanks for a fun half hour, and I'm sure it won't be the last one.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. It's always good chatting.
Of course, man. Text me pictures later of what you throw on the Traeger.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Talk to you in a bit. And that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more episodes. For more wrestling content, be sure to follow Baschamania on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And follow me. I'm at JBash on Instagram and at JustinJBash on Twitter. I'll be back with another episode shortly. See ya.
And the beat goes on.